everyone. Welcome back to the Chill in This podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I'm your host, Amal, founder of EQ. And for those that don't know, EQ came about from my own 30 kilo weight loss transformation, which I have maintained for so many years, over 10 years, up until recently, which I'll touch on in a second. But disclaimer, before we get into it, as you can see, there is no expert guest to join me today. This is a solo episode. So it's just me, you, and just a life update really, giving you an update on what's going on in my world when it comes to health, nutrition, weight loss, and all of the fun things. So where do I start? Okay, so back to what I was saying about my 30 kilo weight loss and maintaining that for so many years up until now. Well, up until the point I met my boyfriend, really. So although my partner Luke came with a lot of joy, happiness, and love, he also came with a few extra kilos for me. And so I never really understood the concept of relationship weight gain and people saying, you look happy or you must be happy in your relationship until I experienced it myself. So I can share with you that I have put on a little bit of weight, and only a small amount. So about 3 to 4 kilos, nothing significant. Since I met Luke. And look, it really just came from the food that we were eating, our food choices, the amount of times we were dining out, just not caring really. You know, for the last 10 plus years, I have been so conscious of my nutrition. And I guess over the last 10 months, I have just enjoyed myself. I think it's so important that if you're getting to know someone or you're in a relationship or you're building on a relationship, that you just allow yourself to do whatever you need to do. So, you know, getting intimate and getting to know someone and having deep conversations, and that usually happens over food, right? And so it resulted in a slight weight gain. And to some, 3 to 4 kilos may not seem like a lot, but to me, it was getting to the point where my clothes were feeling tight, my confidence was lacking, and I knew I had to do something about it. I don't like feeling this way, you know. I get in front of the camera a lot and I film recipes and podcasts, and I just wanted to feel good, because when you feel good, it impacts so much of your life. And so we found an excuse, my partner and I, to get onto our shred, which is what we call our Europe shred. So one of my best girlfriends is having her 30th in Mykonos, and what better motivation than getting ready for Europe, because there's definitely no hiding in a bikini, let me tell you that. And so we decided to start our Europe shred. I think it's been about nearly 4 weeks now, and I am so happy to tell you that I have lost 2.3 kilos in 3.5 weeks, which has been really, really great, and I can definitely feel the difference. So haven't lost entirely what I'd put on in this relationship, but it's a really good starting point and a great motivation, which has kept me on track. But before I get into how I lost the weight and my 3.5 week shred so far, I really wanted to touch on a topic that I actually posted on Instagram recently. And the topic is about something that I'd been experiencing with my health that surprisingly a lot of you had also expressed were experiencing. And that is my journey with experiencing hives. So let's rewind maybe about 15 months ago. So I was actually in Brisbane for one of my other best girlfriend's 30th birthdays. And I was in the shower, getting ready. And I remember I got out of the shower and I looked in the mirror and I had just lines on my rib cage of hives. And I was like, that's weird. Like, this has never happened before. Didn't really think much of it. So anyways, got ready, did my makeup. After 20 minutes, like, the hives had disappeared, went to the 30th birthday party. The next day, I had another day extended in Brisbane. I was staying at the Carlisle, and I went down to the cafe/bar, and I was just reading a book. It was just me by myself, and grabbed a glass of wine, which is so unlike me. I barely drink. Grabbed a glass of wine, and I started drinking the wine, and then I noticed that I'd started breaking out in hives on my arms. So same thing. It was just like really inflamed, like in the shape of like where I'd scratched. So it was like scratching my skin is what triggered the hives. Anyways, thought it was weird that it was happening again, but really didn't think much of it. And then as time went on, it started to appear more and more. Anything would cause like the breakout of hives. It would be from tight clothes, it would be from something rubbing my skin, it would be from scratching, itching. I would just have hives. And so I decided to go see my doctor about it, who referred me to a dermatologist. And I went and visited a really well-known dermatologist in Sydney. And I remember sitting down in my consult, and the only thing that he suggested as a resolution that I would was to worm myself. He's like, "Do you have a dog?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do have a dog." And he's like, "Well, do you worm yourself?" And I was like, "No, I've never wormed myself." And he goes, "Look, take the worming tablets or like the chewables and then come back to me in 6 weeks if you continue to experience hives." And he also recommended that I take an antihistamine twice a day. So off I went. I went and bought the chocolate worming tablets, and I took antihistamine twice a day, every day for 6 weeks, and saw no improvements. And I just thought, I'm a little bit deflated. I'm not going to go back. And then I did my own research. You know what we're all like, us girls, thinking Google's always going to give us the answer. And it seemed like the histamine response or the hives could have been stress related. And at that time, I was going through our first capital raise for EQ. And I thought, look, my stress levels are so high right now. My cortisol would be so high. Maybe these hives are brought on from stress, and maybe it's a way of my body to tell me to slow down. So I thought, you know what, I'll wait till this cap raise is done. And for those that don't know, capital raising is when you raise capital for a business. And I waited for the cap raise to be done, which was done in April this year, and a couple of months had passed and the hives hadn't improved. And then my partner was like, "Look, do you think maybe it's time that you actually put your health first and go and get this checked out?" And look, I would bring this up in conversations with some of my expert guests. So I've interviewed some incredible people, as you would know if you are a returning listener to this channel. And I would mention something about my hives. And it was quite consistent that the message that I was getting was that, have you looked into your gut health? Because there is a correlation between like histamine, gut, and so on. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So I ended up working with an expert recently. I finally did something about it. You know when you just like learn to live with something? Anyways, I had learned to live with my hives. I ended up seeing an expert, and we had decided to undergo a few tests. So I did an allergen test. I tested for my histamine levels in my stomach, and then I also got a gut microbiome test. And let me tell you something, very necessary, but oh my God, it is disgusting. So for anyone that's done it before or plans to do it, look, it is not fun, but I'm very glad that I did the gut microbiome test. Let me tell you that. And when I had worked with this expert, still working with her, but our first consult, she did mention going on a low histamine diet. And I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I know quite a bit about nutrition, and I didn't realize that there were different histamine levels in food. And low histamine is probably one of the most restrictive diets that you can ever go on. And you all know what my philosophy is when it comes to nutrition. And so at first I was like, do I really want to do this? It doesn't really align with, my values, but it was necessary because in order to find out what was going on and to also manage my symptoms, I needed to allow myself to, I guess, be put in a lower histamine state in my stomach to essentially get to the end of this or to figure out what's going on. And so I did it. Low histamine is not fun. It's very restrictive. It doesn't include a whole lot of food, and it also doesn't include a whole lot of like aged food, so like leftovers and frozen meats and so on. So meal prep wasn't a thing. I wasn't able to eat a lot, so like a lot of like the veggies that I would normally eat, and even the proteins like canned tuna, I couldn't eat. Avocados, lemon, citrus, eggs, they just like my entire diet is high histamine. Coffee. And so for 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, I actually did a low histamine diet. And in that time, I got all of my tests done. And after I received my results, I met back with the person that I was working with. And it turns out that I actually didn't have high histamine in my stomach, which is great because we thought, oh, I may have heightened histamine or high levels of histamine, hence why we went on the low histamine diet. So great, getting off low histamine effective immediately. Thank you. But what we did discover through my gut microbiome is that I actually have 2 parasites and SIBO. And so we think that the parasites may have come through traveling. So for those that have followed my journey for a very long time, I was actually in Dubai a few years ago and I got really sick, and I spoke about it on Instagram. Really, 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 really sick, like worst food poisoning ever. So I actually got sick in Dubai, and most recently when I went to Tulum earlier this year, I got sick again. And so we do think that it may have come on from traveling. Anyways, doesn't sound fun. Like when you think about it, like a parasite, it kind of gives me the creeps knowing that that is sitting in my gut right now. But anyways, we're going to move forward and we're going to put a solution and an end to this. So the parasites that I do currently have do have a correlation with hives, which is great because we're hoping that this could be the answer. So I actually start my treatment in 2 weeks. The treatment that I'm going on does kill all the good and bad bacteria in order to get rid of the parasites, which means that right now I'm just like priming my gut up to make sure it's in a good state before I start treatment. Treatment will go for 4 weeks, and then I go to Europe, and then I'll come back, do another 4 weeks, and then I'll go into maintenance mode. So haven't started treatment yet, but it is definitely something that I'd love to share with you guys. I'm not sure if any of you have experienced having a parasite before or have thought, oh, I want to get tested. I think I might have a parasite. In terms of like just symptoms overall and what I was experiencing, other than my hives, look, not a whole lot, to be honest. Like my nutrition is pretty good, except for all of the excessive dining out and calories I was consuming at the start of my relationship. But overall, I make really good food choices. So I don't experience significant bloating or anything like that. My bowel movements are regular. I eat a lot of fiber, drink a lot of water. So I wasn't really experiencing any discomfort, but the hives. So if things are not feeling right in your stomach and you're doing all the right things, go and get checked. Your gut health is so, so, so important. It affects the way you feel, the way you think, your energy levels, everything, absolutely everything. And so if you do have some sort of suspicion that something could be going on, then I absolutely recommend getting a gut microbiome test. Look, it's not fun and it ain't pretty, but do it for the sake of your health. So that's what's going on in terms of my hives and histamine. And something that I just want to say is that if you are experiencing hives, it is so important that you go and see your doctor or you work with an expert. I worked with an expert and was under their guidance for low histamine. It's not something that I would recommend anyone to go on unless you absolutely need to. Any type of diet or elimination diet, you need to be working with someone. Do not do this alone. And please, please, please do not do it unless you absolutely need to for health reasons. The minute that I discovered that I had low amounts of histamine in my stomach and I had taken that blood test prior to starting low histamine, I jumped off my low histamine diet. I didn't even do a slow reintroduction. I probably should have, but I was like, I am not going another day with restriction and deprivation. Like, nah, that's not a thing. Not if I don't need to. So please go and consult a healthcare professional or an expert in this field if you are experiencing symptoms that don't seem normal. Okay, so let's now go into my recent weight loss. So as I mentioned, I started a Europe shred, my partner and I, about 3.5 weeks ago, and I have successfully lost 2.3 kilos. And it's great because I come with all this knowledge when it comes to weight loss, and I have the best available tool for weight loss available to me, which is the Equalution app, of course. And look, in terms of what I've been doing, so my nutrition and my training plan, because I know that you're probably curious, and when I did put up a Q&A, that's exactly what I was asked is, what's your deficit? What are you eating? What's your exercise like? So essentially, I have been on 1700 calories for the last few weeks, so since I started my shred. And let me tell you something now, these numbers are so unique to me. They work for me and may not work for you. So I highly, highly recommend that if you are looking to embark on a weight loss journey, that you do work with someone who can calculate your calories and macronutrients, because it is so unique to you, your health journey, your dieting history, and so many different lifestyle factors. And I know a really great app that you can actually use. But anyway, so 1700 calories, about 100 grams of protein, and a good balance between fats and carbs. So, anywhere between 20 to 30% fats, remainder carbs, and at least 25 grams of fiber. Fiber is so important. It makes you feel fuller for longer. It gets your digestive system going and regulated. So do not forget your fiber, ladies, please. Anyway, so 1700 calories, I wasn't training the first couple of weeks because I got really sick. Not sure if it was COVID or influenza A, but I did lose my taste. So am leaning towards more COVID, but was really unwell. I was literally in bed thinking, how am I going to get out? So training was put on the back burner. I did keep my calories at 1700. So usually I would have decreased because my activity level was not the same. I was using my walking pad, so I was still doing as many steps as I could, not hitting 10,000, but still trying to do as many as I could. But I kept them at 1700 for the reason that it was still going to be a deficit, because although that 1700 mark was a deficit for the activity level that I had calculated, so 3 to 4 days exercise, walking and so on, it was still a deficit from how I've been eating for the last 10 months. And I am a big believer, and our philosophy at Equalution is start as high as you possibly can with your deficit so that you have room to move. Because if you start low and your results start to plateau, you don't really have much room to move. So if you start on 1200 calories, which big no, go and listen to why 1200 calories don't work. That episode is really great to listen to. But say you start on 1200 calories and you lose weight for the first couple of weeks and then you stop losing weight. Where are you actually going to drop to? 1100 and then 1000 and then 900? I ate nearly 900 calories across 2 meals. That is it's not a thing. So started on 1700 and saw results pretty quick. A lot of it was fluid retention at the beginning, of course, because my food choices weren't so great because we were dining out so much. But that did result in the 2.3 kilo weight loss. So I may start to implement some more drops as of next week. Unsure yet, but I'll keep you in the loop, of course. But I am someone that prefers to eat more and just move my body a bit more as well. So the thing is, when it comes to a deficit, people think, in order to continue to see results, I need to keep cutting my calories. But the thing is, you can also increase your energy output as well. So, I might take my now 3 days of exercise to 4 days, or I might take my average of 10,000 steps to 12,000 steps a day, and then that will allow me to burn more calories and still continue to eat 1700 while placing a greater deficit. So that's a hot tip for you, because you don't always need to cut your calories or your calorie consumption in order to create a greater deficit. You can exercise a little bit more. And so we're 6.5 weeks away from Europe. The goal is to feel good. I do have a goal weight, but I just want to feel good. I want to feel confident. I want to be able to put on a bikini and feel good and enjoy my trip without feeling self-conscious. So that is the goal. And I can say that I am definitely on track and it feels good. In terms of training, so I do train at the yard. Love it. I think it is one of the best styles of training. They've got the split between the weights and the cardio. And what I love most about it is that you just show up, you get it done, and you go. You don't need to think about the training program, which I struggle with. I found that if I didn't have a training plan in place or someone that I need to show up for, which is the class, then I would find every excuse under the sun not to go to the gym. So signing up to the yard was one of the best things that I'd ever done, because it gave me that motivation to actually go. And a few of my best girlfriends actually go to the yard as well. So we keep each other accountable, but I just get it done. The workouts are so hard and so intense. You feel so good after. But I just love that you've got the split between weights and cardio and getting that the diversity in, which I think is really important, and not being a cardio bunny. And then on top of that, I do boxing as well. I do kickboxing mostly, but have been leaning into boxing recently, and I have just started Pilates again this week, which I really love. I think it's just a really good stretch for lengthening your muscles. I think it's good, when you just want to have a low intensity workout when you're getting closer to that time of the month. And I just think it's a really fun workout. So I do reformer Pilates now as well, and we'll probably try and do one session a week. So the goal training schedule for me is 2 days at the yard, 2 days of boxing, and 1 Pilates, and 10,000 steps a day, which doesn't always happen. But as long as I get my step count in, that is most important. And then just a few other things that I've added into my routine, or continue to do in my routine, which is important because we need to look at it as like from a holistic lens, and where we can make improvements and also build on better habits. So my water intake has been great. I have been tracking my food every single day religiously, including the weekends, which I think is so important, because if you are trying to lose weight, you want answers. There is nothing worse than being on a weight loss journey and not understanding why you're not getting the results that you're after. And so when you track your food, and I use the Equalution app, of course, when you track your food and you aren't progressing towards your journey or towards your goal, you know exactly what is going wrong. Or if you're tracking your food and you're eating too much, you're aware of the food that you're putting into your body. So I think it is so important. Food tracking is so important when it comes to embarking on a weight loss journey. How will you have answers if you're not sure of what you're putting in your body? So tracking my food, water intake is looking good. Trying to sleep more, which is important. And then also recently incorporating the sauna. So getting a good sweat out in the sauna. Look, I can't last more than 20 minutes. I do traditional sauna, not infrared, because that's what's available to me. And wow, it's hot. It is like a mental game in there. Like after 10 minutes, I'm like, I have to do some like deep breathing to get me through. My partner's looking at me laughing. The last time we went into the sauna, I was like breathing so heavy just to like get myself through. But it's tough, but highly recommend it. You feel so good after. Skin as well looks so good. You're just flushing out those toxins, right? And it also helps with just like recovery and sleep. So highly recommend it. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm just looking at my notes. I left a few notes as I was preparing for this podcast, because I was like, what am I going to talk about? Like, do people even care about this? But look, I think that there might be some valuable lessons that I've shared in this, whether it's to motivate you to go and get your gut microbiome test done, or to start being consistent with your nutrition, or embark on that weight loss journey that you've been holding off for so long, whatever it may be. I hope you found this conversation today valuable. I did put up a Q&A before starting this podcast, or this episode specifically, about anything that you were interested in. And look, I've addressed a few of them in, my chat already, but one thing that was so commonly asked was about business. And, I love that topic. I can't deny that. And I can talk about business for days and days and days on end. So I'm thinking that I might actually do a separate episode, another solo, of me just talking about how EQ came about, the start of the business, the challenges we faced, the journey over the last 8 years. So if that is of interest, because it is very different to our usual conversations on this podcast, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if there's any topic around business or any questions that you have around business, please also send them to me. I would love to start collating them and put together an episode for you if that's what you want. So I think that's it. I think I've addressed everything. Look, if you love this channel and you are a returning listener of the podcast, please, please, please show some support and like and subscribe to our channel. It goes a long way. It helps us get more amazing expert guests to share their knowledge. So please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. And if you have any feedback, feel free to send me a message on Instagram, text us on the Chill on This Pod Instagram. We'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for supporting this channel. Look, without you guys, I wouldn't have this platform to share all this education on nutrition and health tips. So thank you for giving me this opportunity and your support. I'll see you at the next one.